Morning guys, and welcome back. Today we're getting ready for the processing of our meat birds. This is the first time we've ever raised meat birds in our lives. So we're gonna run around and gather up some material. It wouldn't be a video without Big Jake in it. We're gonna run around and gather up some materials that we need. I do have several coolers, but I need to probably buy one more decent sized one. I'm gonna put down some tarps because we're gonna process them in the lean-to, and it's kind of nice and new in there. Yeah. So we're gonna, put down tarps so we don't get stuff all over the lean-to. Let me get you turned around and I'll show you these meat birds. They are huge. So these guys are pretty much ready, and tomorrow is the day. All right, Jake. The roosters, of course, are a bit bigger than the hens. So there'll be a little bit of a size difference between the birds, but even the smallest of birds is a pretty decent size. You get a sense of back there. I'd still say she's probably about 4 pounds or so. So, well, they're starting to crow. So we're gonna get some tarps. We're gonna get coolers. Then I'm gonna come back and clean out the coolers that I have. I want to clean out the lean-to, get all my machines out of here because I have and my ATV in there. So clean this all out, get everything ready, get my cooler set up. Probably gonna need about 80 pounds of ice, I figure. So we'll go get some ice. Maybe I'll get that tonight, or I'll wait till tomorrow morning, I'm not sure. But I just want to have everything nice and set up. So we're actually gonna have Glenn from M&M Farms come and give us a hand. I mentioned them in a previous video where I went to another friend's farm and they did mobile chicken processing. We decided to use them as well. We've never done this. They're gonna kind of teach us. They're gonna do it for us, but we're gonna work hand in hand, side by side with them, so we actually learn in the process. I would like to have just thrown myself into it and learned firsthand. That's usually the way I do things, but there's a lot of outlay that has to be spent. There's pluckers and there's the tables and the knives and et cetera, and the scalding pot. So by the time you buy all that stuff, it works out to be probably a lot less expensive. Really, if nothing else, it's worth it just for the learning experience in and of itself. Anyway, the wife and I are gonna stop and treat ourselves to breakfast before we get going. So I need to get these animals their breakfast in the meantime. Morning, Blackberry. Morning, chickens. Ducks. What's up, guys? Good morning, ducks. Planned the meat bird food out almost perfectly. We got about a half of a bag left, or maybe not even, less than that, probably 12 pounds of feed in there. So today is going to be their last big meal. We're going to fill up both feeders, and that's pretty much it. So this larger one here, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but she's got to be all of 120 pounds already, or maybe more. She's just huge. The smaller one, I'm guessing, is probably about maybe 80, 85 pounds. So there is a bit of a size difference between them. I don't think I'm going to fully catch her up to this one to be exactly the same size at time of harvest. What we're trying to do is get her more treats, more snacks, like separate from her, so that maybe she can get a little bit closer in size to this one. But like I said, I don't think they're going to be, I don't think a 40-pound difference or so is going to get made up in the amount of time that we have. Still have enough water? Yeah, you do. homemade feeder had worked out pretty good, as well as the water barrel. What I had to do was I kind of angled it up a little bit, just because my angle was slightly off the way I had it mounted. So when it sat more flat, you know, it was a little bit, the food was a little bit deeper, so I'd find them kind of putting their hooves in there and stepping in it and getting it kind of muddy. And contrary to popular belief, these pigs are kind of fussy. So whenever their food would get muddy, they'd become prima donnas and not want to eat certain parts, or they'd eat around it, and I started wasting feed. So I found that just by elevating it with these pieces of wood sticking on the top 3 rungs of the hog panels here, gave just the right angles where they just put their noses in there and they're able to get food, and they're happy they don't step in it anymore. They do like to root underneath it and try to get little scraps of food, so I ratchet strapped it to the hog panel, because they were just kind of throwing the feeder all over the place. So we do not have electric wire in this pen, and we have this woven wire here that separates them from the goat pen. And I've had to put a log right there because the little one managed to push underneath and got in there and started ripping up the goat pen. So there's still some space along the bottom here, and I think I'm just going to do the same thing because it worked out really well. I'm just going to put some logs along the bottom, and I'll just zip tie them to the bottom of the fence so they won't be able to push them up. If they do get to move it at all, the log will just fall right back down and not let them in. All right, pigs, we'll see you later. We just came back from the feed store, and I couldn't resist. We got a French copper Marron here and a wholesome. Don't know, they're not sexed yet, so I'm hoping neither one of them is roosters. But at least we could have a wholesome for Big Jake, so we can hatch out purebred wholesomers. And we got this one here, hopefully is also a female, because we don't have any dark chocolate colored eggs, so this would be a nice addition to the flock. Went and placed down just a cheap painter's tarp, just a plastic, 3 mil tarp, and this way, we don't have to get blood and feathers and everything into our gravel, which is where we work. I'm thinking about, I picked up a second one, so I'm thinking I might just put it here. So if we set up the plucker somewhere around here and it throws feathers all over the place, all the feathers and everything would be contained on a separate tarp. But I'm kind of going to wait to see until Glenn gets here to see how he wants to set things up before I start doing too much. Now the meat birds, I took them off food last night about 8 o'clock. They should be off by, for 12 hours or so. So I took them off food, actually it was closer to 7, I think. So they're hungry, they're ready to go. Unfortunately, I feel kind of bad, but such is life, I'm hungry too, and we need good, clean, healthy food to eat. So chickens are close, tarp is down, coolers are filled with ice. We got a fan over there because it's kind of humid today. And we are just about ready to get going here. So I'm kind of conflicted. I would like to show the entire process from start to finish, but I know that a lot of channels on YouTube, when they do chicken processing, they don't really want to show the eviscerating. For whatever reasons, people are sensitive to it, and I guess I understand that. So I'm not sure. I'm going to film it. I'm not sure it's going to make it in this video or not. If anyone wants to see, I guess maybe ask me for the video and I can send it to you. But I think I'm just going to gloss over that part when I edit the video together, just because you never know. Also, I don't want YouTube pulling the video down if they deem it offensive or whatever. So we'll show everything else. We'll show setting up. We're going to show the process once the chicken has been eviscerated, plucking. He's got this really old-fashioned kind of cool plucker where it's just like a rotary drum and you hold the bird on it.
in here, what you do is you just want to pinch right where the breast comes together, and just put a little nick, just to break through the skin, because you don't want to cut anything. And then you open them up, and you're looking for the windpipe, which is right there.
Okay.
I just kind of run my thumb up underneath of it and pull it out. And it will still be connected most times to the esophagus as well.
Okay.
So this is the craw, all that loose. You try to pull all that away from the skin. That's where the food gets stored initially.
Right.
That's why we say take them off of food for 12 hours before, otherwise it's all full. And I try to break it down all the way until where it goes inside the chest cavity.
Okay.
So when you pull the intestines out, all of this comes out at the same time.
Okay. And you can feel it because it's like tubing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is where they breathe through here, and this is where they eat through there. It comes in, gets stored there, and then it goes down and goes into the piece that nobody wants to eat. Back here, you get the two little hip bones. Same thing. You just kind of pinch it and just put a nick in. You want to just barely break through the skin. Stick your thumbs inside. Just open it up. Just start breaking everything loose. I usually go along the top first, and then kind of run my fingers down both sides and try to get everything loose inside. When I pull out, everything comes.
Oh, it just slips right through.
Yep, everything comes right through. So here's your livers. That's the gizzard. So that's the second place that the food goes to. It comes right in, goes to the gizzard, and then passes out through the intestines. Here's the heart. There's the rest of the liver.
Wow.
And what you want to be careful with on this one is you don't want to bust the bile sac open. So you kind of just like pinch it off so that it doesn't. And there's your livers and hearts.
Wow.
And then here I just, since we're going to cut the tail off, just kind of go on either side of that hip bone. Follow it down so I don't cut into the intestine. And then just find a joint back here. Just tough to see, but if you find a joint, just slice that little tail section right off.
That's
And
what I
there's all
said.
Wow, it's all like
Everything's
one
all
big
intact.
piece.
These are the lungs. That's what you want to make sure they get out.
Okay.
So this is the thing with these guys. Those lungs should be nice and bright and pink. These birds just aren't made to, they're just not,
Right.
they wouldn't be healthy for very long.
And any extra big feathers that might be still attached. I like to get as many feathers off as I can to make the bird look pretty and clean.
Right.
And then I get right in front of that breastbone area. I pinch my skin, cut it, make a hole in it, and then I tuck my feet in to make it easier so the bird doesn't fall apart on you.
We are all finished up, all cleaned up, and we've got these big coolers full of birds on ice. As you can see in the video, we kind of shrink wrapped them so they look, nice and clean. They look like what you'd buy in a grocery store. I'm gonna take you to the freezer. I started putting a few away, and I'll show you what they look like all wrapped up. Just like what you get at the grocery store. Brings me to another problem we're gonna have is that we're gonna have two pigs that have to be butchered and sent to processing in October. So these two cubes over here, they go all the way down. There's one cube and another cube, and then this whole section right here is all venison from hunting season last year. So I think I might not harvest as much venison next year, for one. So maybe half of that. And then I got this all filled up with chickens now. These 4 tubs right here. There's 29 birds in total in each. I got 9 birds in each tote. I think this top tote right here only has 2 birds in it, which I can put someplace else. So that'll be 1 tub I can eliminate. So figure half of the venison and 1 less tub of chicken will leave me a little bit of room, but I don't think anywhere near enough for 2 hogs worth of meat. So I think we're gonna have to look at getting another freezer. I have a space over here next to the door where I might put in a stand-up freezer. Well, in retrospect, like I said earlier, this was my first time raising meat birds. This breed was called Freedom Ranger Color Yield. Your traditional Freedom Ranger is a straight red bird that takes a bit longer to grow out. I think it's like 14 or 15 weeks. They tend to forage a bit more than your ordinary Cornish cross, which is those white chickens that you see everyone doing, which is, I believe, supposed to be better for your omega-3s and fatty acids and stuff like that if they get some natural forage. So Cornish cross, on the other hand, they tend to lay around a lot more. They grow out really quick at 8 weeks, so you have a better, I guess, feed costs, right? Because they're not lasting as long. The color yield are supposed to be a cross between the two. So it's, your Freedom Ranger and your Cornish crossed. So, and if you notice, the chickens are kind of they're a little bit red and a little bit white, so they look like both birds combined. Anyway, the whole point of those is supposed to be that they will forage a bit more, so you get a little bit more of that nutritious meat, but they don't take nearly as long to grow out. They're done in we're at just about 10.5 weeks right now. So not a bad amount of time. Honestly, I probably could have harvested them a week ago, because it worked out to be that our smallest bird, they were good sized birds. Our smallest bird was, I think, 3.7 pounds. A bit on the small side, but that's fine. And our largest one was 6.8, which is a big bird. So, but happily, the majority of them are right at 5 pounds or a little bit over, which is a pretty good yield. So, roughly, what do we have? Almost 30 birds at 5 pounds, almost 150 pounds of meat, which I'm pretty happy with. Would I raise these again? To be honest with you, the whole time I was kind of negative raising them, because like, you know what, these birds, I'm looking at them, I'm observing them, like, they don't forage as much as I want them to. So I was getting kind of down. I was like, well, maybe I'll just do Freedom Rangers next time, and we'll just feed them longer and put more money into it or whatever. But as we were processing them, and I'm starting to see the weights on these birds, and Glenn, the guy that was helping me, he's like, I process birds all the time, and he goes, I got to tell you, he says, these are a really nice size, and the innards look significantly better than what I'm seeing traditionally when I do Cornish cross birds. He goes, they're really full of fat. Usually the Cornish cross birds, they're full of a lot more fat, and their innards look kind of mushy. Their lungs don't have that bright pink color. He goes, so he goes, I wouldn't be too down on these at all. He goes, in fact, I think these are worth raising again. So I tend to agree with that train of thought. I might still try Freedom Rangers in the future just to see if there's any difference in the meat quality. But to be honest with you, I mean, even the past 2 days I haven't had to move them around or feed them, and it really saves a lot of time. It took a lot of time off of my day, which I don't really have a lot of time in my days anymore. So it helped out a lot, just not having to deal with these meat birds. So even if I can shave myself 3 or 4 weeks off of the processing time or the raising them out to processing age, it's kind of worth it to me, just to not have to deal with that extra work. But I haven't tasted them yet. I can't say if there's a difference in quality, but I'm pretty sure I'd imagine there would be. In terms of feed, I kind of jumped into the meat bird thing real quick. I was not ready as usual, so I was limited to buying just your commercially available feed from our feed store. Not that that's a bad thing. Lots of people do that, but we're trying to do things a little bit differently here, and I just kind of didn't really have a choice. So it was a Nutrina feed, a 22% protein meat bird feed. It was nice. We didn't have any problems with it. It's just we'd like to try something a bit more wholesome, if you will. So the guy that we got our pig feed from, he mills his own stuff. I showed you that in another pig video. It's really, really nice stuff. It's like whole rolled oats and black oil sunflower seeds, and there's no soy in it. It's a very low corn formula, and he makes chicken feed now. So I think I'm gonna go to him, make a trip out there if I want to doing these birds again in the fall, and I will pick up some feed from him for next time. That's what I'll do differently, I think, with these birds. Processing them. I'm a person who likes to do things myself. I didn't know how to do this, and with all of that I invested into raising them and the time I put in and the care I put into it, I wanted it to be done right. So I had Glenn and his wife Margot. They're called M&M Farm. I'll put the link in the description. They do mobile chicken processing, which I think is just the coolest thing. And from what I can tell, there's a huge market for it, because a lot of people don't have the time to do this, or the know-how, or the wherewithal. So it was a really good service. I hope he doesn't watch this and raise his prices, but I think he was really affordable in the grand scheme of things too. To be honest with you, being that I want to do things with myself, if I invested the initial cash outlay to get started, you know, you've got a minimum of $400 in a plucker. You've got your tables, you've got your knives, you got your bags, you've got the pot for the scalding, and you got the pot for rinsing them off, and the other plucking, you need a little bit of a sink, and lots of other stuff in the bags and everything. So, you know, by the time you invest in this, I mean, I could have Glenn out here 10 years in a row before I would recoup the amount of money I spent. So will I stick with Glenn for the next 20 years of processing my birds? Probably not. I probably would want to, you know, get in there and do this myself, just because, you know, for the satisfaction, the know-how, and to say I did it myself, and that's not a bad thing. But for right now, it just makes so much more sense to have Glenn come out and do this. And he doesn't care. You know, Glenn's the type of guy where he's like, let me show you, let me teach you. And he did. He showed us a lot of stuff, and we learned a lot. And it's kind of hands-on, so it's a good deal in my opinion. He's not threatened by me wanting to do this or anything like that, so I'm not going to cut into his bottom line. Overall, really cool experience. I felt, you know, you feel a little bit bad when you have to take your animals that you cared for and do the whole processing routine. So there's a little bit of that feeling, but I got to tell you, the feeling that I feel at the end of it, stacking my freezer that full of meat that I know where it came from, I know how it was raised, I know what it ate, I know how it lived, I know it had the sunshine on its face, and it got to eat bugs and got to play with its other chickens, and it wasn't cramped in a tight space. It feels really good. And I know people will look at this and be like, oh yeah, you slaughtered chicken, you know, you're a creep and you're horrible and this and that. Listen, I feel that I'm doing a lot better than when you go to the restaurant and you sit down and you order a chicken dish. What you support, what that chicken went through, and I'm not belittling or bashing anyone. If you're okay with that, that's fine. I'm not here to judge anyone. But for me, I just hate when people get on me about this, because I feel like I did the right thing for the animal, you know, instead of supporting that commercial horribleness, which is what led us here to doing this lifestyle. Was, you know, 5-6 years ago, my wife and I were sitting there laying in bed and watching a Netflix special on where our food comes from, and we were pretty horrified. So we just said, hey, we want to start doing this, and here we are, all this time later. So no regrets. Was sad seeing the chickens go. Really happy how it turned out in the end. That's all I got to say about it. So guys, thanks for being with me on this journey. I really appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I could really use the help. Follow along. We got a ton of projects going on around here. I don't think we're gonna be slowing down for quite a few years. There's a ton of work to be done. Sorry I have not been a bit more prolific in uploading videos. I'm having audio problems, and it's a drag editing videos with these audio problems, because half the videos I shoot, the sound's not coming on, and I'm not going to bother you with this. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.